one of the reasons which has been proposed for the large number of strikes in South Africa is the gap between executives and the ordinary worker in what they get paid. Well, for many people, the problem is that executives walk away with big packages while workers struggle on small raises. Joining us now to discuss the controversial issue and indeed focusing on the big news of the moment in that field, which is the 58% increase in the salary of the Canadian Chief Executive of Sasol, David Constable, is Johan Redlinghuys. He's the chairman of Heidrick & Struggles. Johan, I was privileged to publish your recent think piece on this issue, and it seems to be the time where people are speaking out. We're watching business leaders speaking out against government, and an executive search guru like yourself speaking out against executive remuneration.
Yeah, I've got to be careful with that because I'm on tricky ground, to be honest. And by the way, it's 68%, not 58%.
53 million rand, 68%.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly. Executive search people have often been accused of trying to drive up salaries in order to increase their fees. But in this particular case, I think it was not just the fact that he hasn't increased, it was the amount of the increase and the juxtaposition of the increase linked to what they were negotiating for people down the line. The 7.5% compared to the 68% just seemed a little bit out of kilter.
And the reaction of the Remuneration Committee of Sasol
Yes.
was rather strange.
It wasn't it? Look, the thing that we have to remember is I'm sure that David Constable's salary was negotiated initially in dollars, and in a dollar amount somehow it doesn't sound quite as bad as it does when put together in rands. And the fact is he's a big international player, and I suppose one has to pay what that requires.
Is he? Is he really that big internationally? Could he get a job at a similar business?
I couldn't comment on that, but the Remuneration Committee at Sasol must have thought so. In his particular case, it was not just the salary. Remember that the salary was only 12 point something million, which is still a very considerable salary, but in the greater scheme of things that doesn't matter. If you compare it, for example, to some of the other people that we've talked about in the same or in a similar industry, it was the way that the benefits were put together. 18 million rand as a sign-on bonus. 18 million rand. And then,
have you heard of that before?
I've heard of sign-on bonuses, but that is just huge. And then, in addition, a 22 million rand incentive. This is not a bonus based on performance. It is an incentive. It's to encourage him to work, or to work hard, or to achieve the objectives. It seems a little over the top.
Is it that difficult to attract international talent to South Africa that you've got to pay these kind of numbers?
Look, it is difficult. It is difficult, and because we do the same thing, I can tell you that attracting people, especially to Joburg, with the reputation that Joburg has in the international market, is really not easy. So there is a kind of a danger pay element to this thing, which we wouldn't see, but which people in the United States might see.
What about the Remuneration Committee itself? Warren Buffett says he would like to see Dobermans there rather than Maltese poodles. And in this case, they all get pretty well remunerated. Mr. Daycraft, non-executive director, gets 2.3 million rand.
Yes.
Hixonia Nyatsulu, a non-executive chairman, gets 4.5 million rand a year.
Yes.
Jürgen Schremp, who ex-Daimler, gets over 2 million rand for serving on that committee.
Yeah. Those are pretty high compensation packages for people who are non-executives. In the greater scheme of things, that really is a high number. Or those are high numbers for all three of the ones that you've mentioned. But it still does not detract from the fact that they have given a chief executive a package which is very, very thought-provoking.
Indeed it is, in a country like South Africa. But then if Sasol was based in New York?
Well, if it was based in New York, it might have played differently. But the fact is, it is based here. And the fact is that the workers that we're comparing it to are operating here. So, you know, the point that I made in the piece is if the chief executive has to qualify his package because it's an international company, then what about the other people in the organization? Is it the same for them?
Good point. Johan, in a way, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot.
Indeed.
Because
Indeed.
Hendrik and Struggles, no doubt, would like to do business with Sasol. Is it because you've got enough grey hairs now you can just see it, say it as you see it?
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. Of course, we'd like to do work with Sasol, and we've had Sasol as a client. But when something provokes thought, it needs to be said, whether one compromises one's position in the future or not.
The 7.7% increase in the rank and file, I guess next year they're going to be saying that's not nearly enough, and they might have a point.
They might. But, you know, the most big employers are tough with the unions, aren't they? I mean, it was between 7.5 and 7.9. It's such a narrow margin, and it's so clearly defined. It does seem awfully tight in comparison to 68%, doesn't it?
Johan Redlinghuis, thank you for your contribution today. And the new amendments made to the BBBEE codes of practice are likely to result in increased compliance. Let's just have a look at where this ought to